Good morning, evening, or afternoon, everybody. It's Kaghoe coming at you with another video. So today I'm going to be covering the best and the worst features of Season of Discovery, the things I liked, the things I enjoyed, and just all the things SOD really brought to us, and what I think would be better in the future if they do end up going with the Classic Plus and taking things from Season of Discovery and moving them forward to, even if it's not Classic Plus, whatever is next. So the very first thing I want to talk about is the rune system as well as new class roles. So I loved the new role idea and really making every class viable. They did that largely through the rune system, and they tweaked a little bit of talents and abilities, but not too many things with these runes. Now, the runes, obviously, it got very tedious, and you had to get almost 36 of them by the end of the game. And, it was pretty much like each slot had one for each spec with a few options. And they definitely have tweaked this a lot since the initial thing. And they added quite a bit of things to make it better. However, what I really would have loved, and we saw this at the end, was the Rune Broker. And I think what they should have done is added a Rune Broker at the end of every phase. And what I mean by that is it was really terrible to be a new player or try to catch up in Season of Discovery. And if you were someone who played the entire time, you had all your runes from phase 1, you had all of your runes for phase 2, like going up and up and up and progressing, it felt fine. However, if you made an alt, if you made something else when you went into these things, it just really didn't feel very good. And having the Rune Broker at the end of a phase or at the beginning of a new one to get all the previous runes, I think would have been a really big thing for Season of Discovery. However, I do hope if we go into Classic Plus or whatever's next, we don't necessarily go with the rune system. Those abilities are just inherent to the game. And I think in SOD, our power creep and sort of just the need to make it new got away with us. And I think we're too overpowered. We have too much abilities, too many things for a classic WoW setting. However, I do think a few of them could make their way into the game, and things that allow people to have their kits be viable in all raiding scenarios, I think is a very important thing that I want them to bring forward, especially when we look at new roles. I think Shaman Tank is a must-have. You should keep that. Warlock Tank, must-have. You should keep that. Rogue Tank really, really needs to have its own tanking spec, I think, to make it balanced. It has either been too overpowered or not good at all, and they just can't find the balance for it with the current stuff. So I'd be fine with scrapping Rogue Tanks personally. Mage Healer's another goofy one. I think in Nax it shined really hard because it had really big numbers, but outside of Nax it's always just kind of been and it's a way that people enjoy playing, and we see that in Disc Priests in later retail expansions. However, it's just, I don't know, it's goofy to me to have a healer that does DPS and heals through that. It just seems weird in my opinion. However, it does help a lot with groups, and I think you've always been able to find a tank, find a healer, find those roles because they gave you essentially 4 new tanks with rogues, shamans, and warlocks, 3 new tanks, and making Feral Druid very viable in that sense. And then also Mage Healers is huge because Mage and Warrior are traditionally the 2 biggest played classes. So I would love for them to take those concepts and move them forward, but not be as powerful. And it's very important that we balance it out and we do not break PvP like we did in SOD with that. Because in SOD, to get that class balance and make every raid viable, it kind of destroyed PvP, and the one-shot PvP meta isn't very fun, and I don't think many people enjoy it. But anyway, let's talk about our next thing, which is the new content side of Season of Discovery. I think the level up raids, Karazhan Crypts, the Scarlet Enclave, and all the new quests and stories that we got in Season of Discovery were awesome. I loved doing the whole Paladin quest line and seeing that play out. I think it was one of the coolest lore events and stuff that they've done in Season of Discovery. We had that Night Elf Rebel quest line in Phase 2. That was pretty cool, and apparently she had unique dialogue if you were a Night Elf about a rebellion. So if you're into the story, those little... I know that SOD is canon technically, basically, and they can't change too much. It's sort of like photographs, as they described it. But, you know, with Scarlet Enclave and the whole Ashbringer being added, that's a bit kind of out of the window, in my opinion. But I really loved the new content, and I think Karazhan Crypts and Scarlet Enclave are two amazing pieces of new content, and if we get anything like that in whatever's next, I think it'll be an immense success. So I think those are great examples of raids done well, stories done well. I really think that the dev team cooked with those, and I enjoyed them a lot going in there. Just the whole, this is a 20-year-old game, and going in there and seeing new things inside of it was just awesome. I would, however, like to see them do new content for the leveling, not just level up raids. While level up and raids are pretty good, I would love to, like, there's still a retake, a respin, a reclassification of an old raid. Like, we have been in BFD, we have been in Sunken Temple, we have been in Nomergon so many times, and they are fun and enjoyable, but they don't have that new flair like something like Karazhan Crypts, Demonfall Canyon, and Scarlet Enclave had. And so, like, something like this, like Hinterlands is a great example, and Jin Tor, like, this is just like 5-6 elite quests, and this thing is laid out like a dungeon. I imagine this was an idea for a dungeon early on that just did not sort of manifest in any way, but I think turning something like this into a dungeon, or even opening up a new area somewhere in the world where there's just nothing there, and making them just not in-game, like, you can have a new dungeon that isn't in-game, and it has good loot, something that people would use for a while, like blues, like doing my solo self-found hardcore challenge and doing the one dungeon rule. I am so stoked to go into the dungeons and try to get some blue gear, because it is super powerful and super good, and you can take that into the world. And I think having that in a new Classic Plus or new season, I think that would be really awesome, and something that we didn't really get in SOD. But the whole phasal system in SOD and blocking us at 25, 40, and 50 kind of was kind of counterintuitive towards anything like that ever existing. However, if we do go into it fresh, I'd imagine it would just be 1 to 60 straight up if it is truly Classic Plus. So that, like, I really enjoyed that. And now an example of something that was terrible, and I absolutely never want to see anything like it again, is incursions. Incursions were bad for two reasons. One, on a PvP server, it was a pure bottleneck fiesta, and normally it wouldn't be a problem, and I don't like to complain about PvP server things, but the problem is it's an artificial bottleneck where we all have to go into one area that we didn't know about when we signed up, right? Like, SOD they added it into the game, and it not being a sanctuary, I think, really rubbed people the wrong way, especially in the first weeks of doing phase 3. It was just sort of find the Horde layer, find the Alliance layer, and everyone just sat at the ramp and held the gate. And it just was really bad, because some people just wanted to go out there and experience the new content, the new thing like that. And then aside from the PvP server side of things, incursions were so overwhelmingly broken. They were the best way to get gold. They were the best way to get XP. They were the best at literally every aspect of the game. It killed the open world. People literally ran around, got the runes, and that's all they did, because incursions were that powerful and that good at literally everything. And making a hub that powerful is so against classic WoW. And it just absolutely obliterates the world, the immersion, the going out there, the world of Warcraft, right? It is called that for a reason. There's a massive world to explore. So I truly hope that the devs have learned from incursions, and we never, ever, ever see anything like that again, because it was pretty bad. Next, I want to talk about end-game raiding difficulty. So I know it is Season of Discovery. It was highly experimental, and we had so many different forms of this. Every raid brought something new and fun and different, and some were very enjoyable, some were very easy, some were very hard, some were quite fun, and some were not very fun. So let's go in order and talk about what I liked from each raid and how it sort of played out for me personally. So MC, I loved the idea of it. I loved the prep and the means of the raid. Like, you had to go out there and you had to farm a bunch of reputations, and they really used a lot of gear that kind of wasn't used. Like, it was just sitting there, and like, tanks would get some FR to tank Ragnaros, but that was about it. You didn't really need much of that in Classic, so it took a bunch of reps and things that you didn't really need, use, or anything like that, and you actually got out in the world and you grinded it, and I really enjoyed it. I did it on 2 characters, Farm and Timbermaw, to get my gear for both my Mage and my Druid, and it was just a fun grind, something to do. Everyone was on, everyone was playing. We were having like hundreds of people online in the Sod Saviors at a time, just going out there and playing the game. People were doing dungeons, people were getting their pre-bits, people were doing everything. However, the problem that this made is because it was such a grind, if you were late, if you were behind, you didn't really get to experience that. You kind of just had this monumental task, and not many people were there to help you. So it became a big issue with replacing people, as well as how much gold and preparation you needed to do to reach that Heat 3 benchmark in order to do the raid. Now, it did get alleviated with some enchants to the cloak as well as shoulders, but it was a little too far gone for that. And I think MC also was the hard 20-man rosters as well. We didn't have the flex MC out yet to that point, so like it just kind of like, it wasn't the best, right? It didn't feel very good, especially if you didn't have to replace people. I was blessed with a very steady, healthy roster, and we had 2 runs going by the end of it, and it worked out pretty well. It just, there were just some points in there where it felt bad, and if you didn't have a great roster and community to foster, it probably did not feel too good to do MC. But I think I enjoyed it. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. Mainly because the mechanics were just the SOM mechanics, as well as having FR gear. So like, if Heat 2 felt better to clear than Heat 3, because Heat 2 you could use your peer pumper sets, you could use all of your best gear. You didn't have to just sacrifice and use some FR pieces. The next thing I want to talk about is BWL. I think BWL was peak. It was perfection. It was a great balance of fun, gear, difficulty, and flexibility, as well as it felt very rewarding to have a Shadow Flame weapon and cool cosmetics that you were rewarded for doing the hard mode. And we even had some horizontal progression in the sense of you use the FR gear for bosses like Firemaw, that even to this day in our Nax and Scarlet Enclave AQ gear, you go out there and you can still wipe on Firemaw because you don't have FR. He absolutely blasts some gills. Now you can just kind of brute force it, but I really think what BWL also brought was flexibility with the flex rating. I think the flex rating of the 20 to 40 is the best thing they have ever added in Classic WoW. From, honestly, I'm maybe a little biased from a guild leader perspective, but now like if my healer calls out, I have an extra healer. If my DPS calls out, can't make it, I have extra people. It's so difficult to field a Classic bench. Like, not many people are just down to raid randomly and get a little bit of gear and help the team out. That is a very gone concept. It is hard to field an active bench. So now you can just bring 25 people. If one dude calls out, no big deal. We can either replace them with a different team, or we can they can just miss out. We can do it 24 because it's scaled to 20 people. It allows guilds to clear it. It allows the player balance and skill issue that we see, especially in Scarlet Enclave, which we'll talk about at the end of this. It allows people, like maybe a guild struggling, their solution isn't to just sit there and suffer. They can just recruit more people. They can get guildies, they can get casuals. Maybe you have a dude who's a little undergeared, but their DPS still counts, and it might be enough to push you over that line to get it. That has been my philosophy for the Scarlet Enclave. I have literally cannibalized our entire second raid, and we are bringing 35 to 40 people to full blast it and clear it to kill Calderon. And mainly just because I want to do that. We will go back to our 25-30 man raids very soon and see how hard the raid truly is. But for now, I just want to kill Calderon and complete Season of Discovery in that way. But anyway, let's talk about the next raid of AQ. So AQ had a very rough start and launch. There were bugs. There were the PTR vendors came out. It was just really disappointing. And after coming off of the high that BWL was and being eager to go in there and descent into madness, and it being heavily thought of and criticized at the beginning, it was just such a gut punch, and it really sucked to see it sort of go from that amazing amazing BWL of the flex difficulties, the hard mode being so good, to a bad launch that AQ had. However, after the launch woes and about 2 to 3 weeks of getting it refined, AQ was really enjoyable. I really wish that the Descent into Madness, like the progressive hard mode, was pretty fun. I don't see anything wrong with it. It might have been too easy of a hard mode after going from Mythic BWL with the black affix. However, it just was pretty enjoyable. It was a fun thing to do. The only thing I wish they changed was the simple on and off switch for the Madness. Like, just let us talk to a dude and turn it on like we did in BWL. That was so very nice. And MC, like turning it on like that would have been great. However, you have to run around and click little obelisk, and if you missed one, you forgot about one, you didn't hit one, it became really weird and hard to, like, I even missed a few, and I messed up the very first raid doing the Descent into Madness because we missed an obelisk or we didn't click one. I forget exactly what we did, but it was nice rewards and really fun mechanics, and I enjoyed AQ a lot, even though, you know, it is the raid that everyone hates and doesn't do, and it kills the game, etc., etc., all the negativity AQ gets. I had a lot of fun with it, especially here in SOD. The next was a very controversial raid with Seal of the Dawn and having really giga numbers and sort of this whole, people like to say, borrowed power system, but I don't really think it was borrowed power because, I don't know, like, it's just a different way to do one of these raids. I just, borrowed power feels weird because they're usually like expansion long, you get it, and then we go to the next expansion, so it's like, if you want to say it's borrowed power, fine, but to me, it felt more like a catch-up raid to kind of avoid everything that came before, so you didn't have to have that horizontal progression that we see so much in Classic, and it was straight vertical, so people could come back and do the new content like Karazhan Crypts and the Scarlet Enclave, because I think a ton of people have come back just to simply do that. You've seen it with all the content creators that sort of quit and came back to do the new raid, and everyone doing that, and I think they did that to allow people to come back, catch up, and get back into SOD with little to no ease and not having to be full AQ BIS or have BWL gear and all the things that you needed. You can literally get invasion gear, crank that hard mode up to 2, and have a really easy time. And so it just, to me, felt like a way for people to get into Karazhan Crypts and Scarlet Enclave, which is kind of just a very foreign concept to Classic WoW. It just felt out of place, but all in all, it was enjoyable as a raid. The mechanics were fun, the mechanics were nice. What they did with Saf and KT was really fun, adding full new sort of hard mode and difficult mechanics to them, making them very challenging at first, but all in all, I really enjoyed it, and I think they did a good job with Naxxramas. Definitely really easy and more towards the casual side of the game, however. Then we have Scarlet Enclave. My initial opinion of this at the time of this video is it's very hard, very fun, and very controversial. Every time I talk about the Enclave, I either get told that it needs to be harder, or stay at its current difficulty. They're loving progression, they're loving this challenge, or it is way too hard and it is absolutely the worst thing ever and is imploding guilds. I personally, I loved killing the Reborn Council unnerfed with my entire Savior community. I think it was one of my favorite memories in all of Season of Discovery. Going through that, struggling, the progression, bringing so many people, and like it felt like taking my entire guild and everything I have built to throw it at these guys. And that's what we're planning on doing tonight with Colderon. I'll be streaming live at 8 p.m. Eastern if you want to check it out at twitch.tv/Kaghoe Gaming. And it's just been really, like, it's cool to see all of my hard work and effort in building my community, my guild, and coming to the end of SOD to defeat this massively hard and challenging raid. And like, that was awesome to hit it. And I honestly thought that it was unkillable with the enrage timers and us bringing our best and brightest people, and we were literally on our last pull of the night, and I was about to take a break from raiding that hard and going after and sending everything. Like, I was about to just be like, all right, well, we can't do it, let's wait for nerfs. Like, but we did kill it, and it felt awesome to progress through that and actually get it done. I still need more time with Scarlet Enclave to give a full pros and cons list. It does feel very rewarding as a raid for those that stuck with SOD, those that have that have played SOD through all the phases. However, for people that have come back to do it, it probably definitely feels bad because you are either guildless, you don't have a community, you don't have the amount of people that you need to go in there and truly clear the raid. Any difficulty you have, like I see in the comments, so many guilds that are like 20 to 25 man can't clear the Reborn Council because they simply can't meet the DPS check, and they are struggling to find good geared DPS players that want to come to their raid. And then if you take pugs and give them no pug's gonna come if they don't get a shot at rolling on gear, and then if they can't get gear, then like if they take that gear, they're just gonna get it for a week and never come back. So you see a lot of issues with that and logistics. I definitely think like it does suck for those players, but I'm not in that situation, so I can't really attest to it. I can only speak on my experiences and behalf. So at the end of the day, I think these are the best and worst things that we have seen with Season of Discovery and what I have truly enjoyed. I think that there's a lot that they could learn for whatever is next. I think the in-game difficulty and rating, they had a plethora of things to pull from, and I hope that they keep that energy going forward with whatever's next. I enjoyed every single one of these phases. It brought a new, unique challenge, whether or not it was the best or it was good or it was revolutionary. That is to be like obviously some of them things like the giant meatball was quite a meme and a bit weird, but you know, it was still fun to see a new boss in Molten Core, and I had a lot of fun doing that for the first time. I don't know, everything new just gets me excited. Season of Discovery got me so excited to go out there and find new things, discover the world, take a game that I love so much and just sort of revamp it in a really nice way. So anyway, I truly hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a bit of a long one, but I really wanted to give SOD all my opinions and thoughts and really talk about what I thought was some of the best things and the worst things of each aspect of Season of Discovery. So I truly hope you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. And until next time, I'll see you later. Have a great day. Bye. Hey you. Yes you. Are you still there? Well, I appreciate you for taking the time to watch this entire video and making it to the end here. If you enjoyed this video, definitely check out the other videos about World of Warcraft listed in these playlists down below. And thank you again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.